Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. And I've just thought about trying to do some different things with this YouTube channel. Because you notice a lot of YouTube channels that kind of do their thing, but they kind of just, they don't change their format, they don't try to do different things. And then I notice other YouTube channels that do one or two different things and suddenly their channel takes off. Not that I really want to just become enormous. I mean, it'd be nice, but at the same time it might require more time of mine. So what I'm going to do, I want to start doing like lists and stuff like that, because it seems like lists are what people like. And the other thing they seem to like is lists of things that are popular. So if it's obscure, the stuff that kind of, it speaks to my wheelhouse the most, progressive rock or whatever, music of other kinds, it doesn't really get caught in searches, and people won't click on it because it's too obscure and they never heard about it, or maybe they even know about it, they know they don't like it. So I'll start trying to do some lists of some more, popular names. It may not do anything for this channel. It may gain 5 subscribers. I don't know. But it's worth a shot. So what I'm going to try doing now, and then I may, if I have time, in a little bit, or in the next few weeks, especially because I have a week coming up in early January, my top 10, I like to call it more like a top 20 or 30 favorite artist list, but I wrote down the 10 and change, but I'll probably just rattle off some other names, so, you know what, instead of going 10 to 1, let's just go 1 to 10, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go 10 to 1. So I kind of have like a shared 10th spot, or maybe this is the top 12. Yes, Pain of Salvation and King's X also sort of, those are all bands sort of on the fringe. Yes, I absolutely love the 70s stuff, and then select releases, up to Drama especially, and then select releases after that. I did those kind of artist reviews, which kind of explains that too, but Pain of Salvation, I enjoy everything they've done, even the Road Salt albums, but to me, clearly their best work for me was their first 4 albums. I thought In the Passing Light of Day that came out in 2017 was kind of a rebirth of sorts. It was, but the Road Salt albums are okay. They have definitely some good songs on them. B, I do like a lot, except it's just so overtly conceptual that I don't listen to it that much. And actually, I think Scarsick, I still enjoy. People give it a bad rap. I don't mind a lot of the negative things about it. I just don't think it's as good as any of those first 4 albums. Entropia through The Perfect Element. So then they're on the fringe. Then King's X, similar to some of these other bands, I've been a fan for over 20 years of King's X. Those first 4 Sam Taylor produced albums are sort of untouchable. They're not absolute masterpieces, but Gretchen Goes to Nebraska I consider basically a perfect album and a great concept. But you also throw in those other 3, and just the sound, the overall sound, the detuned guitars with the songwriting, the melodies, the harmonies, the experimentation, sort of the uniqueness of them. There was something special about those first 4 albums that they never really completely did again. I don't think they wanted to do again, but and the albums came after that. Every one of those albums has a lot of songs I like, other than like Black Like Sunday. But every other album they've done, some better, some worse. I personally have a soft spot and defend Manic Moonlight as much as a lot of people don't care for that much for that album. I thought Vegetable is one of the best songs I've ever done, but the whole album flows really well to me, as different as it is, and it's all Doug Pinnick vocals. Dogman, a lot of great tunes. It's a little heavier. Ear Candy is their catchiest record, probably. I think Tapehead, I need to revisit Tapehead, but I liked it when it came out. I didn't like it as much as some of their others, but I still enjoyed a lot of the songs on it. Groove Machine, for example. Fade. Please Come Home, Mr. Bulbous is a great album. Probably liked it more than Tapehead. It's got a lot of kind of great, kind of psychedelic, kind of trippy, pieces on it. Moments, especially. And then Ogre Tones, well, a lot of people love Ogre Tones. I like Ogre Tones. I don't like it nearly as much as some of the others, but I think it's good. It has a handful of excellent songs. And then their last album, XV, was really good. I think it was better than Ogre Tones and almost as good as Manic Moonlight. And they have a new album coming out in 2019. So anyway, So that's the sort of outside the top 10 or the 10th slot in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So then after that, I got Dream Theater. Been a fan for over 20 years. Again, like King's X or like some of these bands, their 90s output's really up until 6 Degrees really is the stuff I adore and hold on a high place. The stuff since has been kind of hit and miss. But I guess I've sort of I've kind of let them do their own thing and not expected as much. Ours, who I've been a fan for over 10 years, Jimmy Necco's my favorite singer. He can wail like a banshee, as I've said many times. And they don't have a bad record to their whole catalog. They just released their 5th album, and they got 2 more coming out in 2019. I love ours. Catchy, emotional, melodic, moody, kind of just earwormy stuff in it, and his voice is just amazing. Dredge, like ours, I got into them around the same time, and I just adore them. Their last album isn't as good as all their other records, but I don't think it's as bad as people made it out to be, but their first 4 albums are almost untouchable. And they almost had a perfect catalog at one point. I mean, close to perfect. El Cielo being sort of my favorite. I mean, half of that has to do with I'll watch it and sync it up with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but Dredge are, on their own, one of the most important bands I've ever discovered, and I can't wait. They're putting out a new album in 2019. The Deer Hunter, of course, I'm part of the lifetime membership of them, and they haven't put out a bad album as well. I mean, Migrant, I would say, is my least favorite, but I still enjoy a lot of that album. But all the Axe albums are just amazing, and they're untouchable in a lot of ways. I don't think Casey Crescendo would say he could do a lot of things to make them better. As a fan, I don't know if I'd want really him to do anything better with them because I love them the way they are. Act 2 being my favorite. Part of that's nostalgia when I got into the summer of 2007, but that record's a perfectly epic composition of songs that they fit the kind of story concept, not to the great details, but just sort of the story in my head. And, there's just countless number. They have probably 30 songs I love. There's so many songs by the Deer Hunter I love, and they're kind of one of those lifetime, lifer bands. So after that, Genesis, I'm coming up to number 5, I guess. Genesis, the Peter Gabriel period, is like King's X's sort of Sam Taylor period. It's sort of untouchable. From Trespass through The Lamb Lies on Broadway, they're just all just master. Almost all, not all 5 stars, but pretty damn close. Foxtrot being my favorite. I mean, not just because Supper's Ready, but Supper's Ready kind of is what puts it completely over the top. But I love Cane Utility and Coastliners also on that record. And I'm spacing on the opening track with the little Watcher of the Skies. But anyway, Still in England, Nursery Crime, and Trespass. Trespass gets overlooked. Trespass is an amazing album itself. The stuff after Lamb Lies on Broadway is hit and miss, but at least the period through Duke, especially Duke itself, has a lot of music I love. So that's why when Genesis are good, they are really good. Every album, even after The Lamb, there's songs I enjoy. I actually tend to think Duke is the best thing they did, really, after that. But, Trick of the Tail, a lot of really good compositions. Phil, I don't have a problem with Phil's vocals at all. Wind and Wuthering is not quite as good as Trick of the Tail, but still has a lot of good songs on it. And then there were 3, not as good as either of those first 2, but still good. Still a number of good songs. Follow You, Follow Me is on that album. And then the 80s and 90s stuff are, I don't call them guilty pleasures, but they're not bad. That's why I put Genesis this high, even though they're almost a different band. You could just say basically the decade from 70 to 80 Genesis would be number 5, but I still enjoy even Calling All Stations as much as the whole thing with Kevin Gilbert could have been on that. I enjoy some moments on that album, but and then there were We Can't Dance, of course. Invisible Touch is very catchy. The self-titled Mama album, and then Abacab. So moving on, number 4, a band that I've been to since I was just entering high school or just after high school, Rush, who probably have the longest run of just consistently excellent albums. Basically from their first album, I see all the way through really Counterparts. I mean, I see Presto as the last like classic, but I think Roll the Bones and Counterparts are still very good. And then I think Test for Echo, and while I really do like 2003's release quite a bit. I thought Snakes and Arrows is probably my least favorite Rush album. It has a couple songs I like, but why am I spacing on the title of the album that came out before Snakes and Arrows in 2003? Their comeback album, basically. And then Clockwork Angels is better than pretty much anything since Counterparts. It's going to bug me. Anyway, so the top three, Fate's Warning, a band I've been into for over 20 years. They have a number of albums that I adore, including A Pleasant Shade of Grey, which could be called a perfect shade of gray. But besides that, you have Parallels, you have No Exit, you have Disconnected. I just adore, especially the 17-minute track Still Remains. And what's it called? FWX. That record has been looked down upon by some fans in recent years. I don't understand it. That record is really good. It's not as good as Disconnected or Pleasant Shade of Grey, but there's about 7 or 8 songs on that album I really like. And then, Passing Light of Day. It's Pain of Salvation. A different light. Darkness in a Different Light. I need to listen to it again, but I find that to be the weakest Fate's Warning album since probably Inside Out. But people are praise that album, they knock FWX, which I don't understand. But it's still not a bad album. But then, of course, 2016 they released Theories of Flight, which is just awesome again. So, I mean, they have 5, 6 albums that I adore. 2 or 3 just staple favorite all-time albums. John Arch. And you include the Arch Matheos stuff in Arch within that whole catalog, and it's even better because Jim Matheos was involved in all that stuff. So, still a big bug by the name of that Rush album. Anyway, number 2, my favorite band of all time is Marillion. Make no mistake. They have a couple records that I'm not as thrilled about. I don't like as much as their others. I guess it would probably be Holidays in Eden, Fugazi, and Radiation. And even I might throw Sounds That Can't Be Made in there to an extent. But every one of those albums have more than half the music is really good. Then you take about the other albums in their catalog, and Brave is my favorite album of all time. Marbles was an amazing, epic masterwork, that comeback record in 2004. And Clutching at Straws and Misplaced Childhood are both 5-star albums. They're just perfect. There's nothing that could change. Nothing they could change about those 2 albums. Then they have, stuff like Afraid of Sunlight, which is just amazing. I consider that 5 stars. They have Marillion.com, Anarachnophobia, which have these great kind of textural, ambient passages and a lot of just memorable tracks on there. The last album, Fear, Fuck Everyone and Run. The Lever, we had the Levers, that whole portion alone is among the best part, and that was like a 12-minute piece. So I'm a fanboy, and I've been a fan for over 20 years. But Marillion, I think I'll go to my grave being my favorite band. I don't think they'll ever change. Even if they only put out one more album, they have 5 5-star albums. I can't say that about any other band or any other artist I like at this point. Then my favorite artist of all time is Kevin Gilbert, who doesn't have 5 5-star albums, but he has 2, and he has 3 actually. Between Thud, which is sort of his singer-songwriter album, which is like a very kind of well thought out, very reworked, and very perfectly composed singer-songwriter at times album. Then you have The Shaming and the True, which is, to me, the mother of all concept albums without being overblown, and it also kind of exposes the darkness and the truth about both the music industry and Hollywood film industry, Hollywood TV and film industry, and to an extent, in trying to work as a artist and a musician in those fields. And sarcasm totally put to the perfect test. It should be in every library. Then he has Toy Matinee, which is a perfectly composed, well-crafted, clever, progressive pop album. So, all 3 of those records are untouchable. There's nothing, I don't think I'll ever feel differently about any of those albums. I doubt, because the production is pristine, the compositions, the kind of way they place the drum work, the vocal tracking and everything, and just the lyrics. I mean, yeah, I'm a fanboy, of course, but I find him, that's why he's my favorite musician of all time. Then you take the rest of the work he did, and he died when he was 29. You have his work with Giraffe, the 2 Giraffe albums, and some of the extra tracks that came out later. It's progressive rock, but it's really well composed. I mean, some of it does kind of channel Genesis and Yes, but it doesn't sound as overt as some other examples, and the performances are really good. And some of those songs got reworked for some of those other albums, but I think each one is worth taking on its own. The NRG album is great for what it's well. He was like 16 years old when he recorded it or wrote it. Some of those compositions are really good. His voice was higher, but then you count Caviar, which is his most out there work, which is probably the one release of his catalog I've listened to the least, but I still enjoy it. I enjoy it similar to some of the Shaming of the True material that gets a little darker. So, and then his covers, of course, if you want to include that in with, and he did The Lamb on Broadway almost all with Giraffe. It's been always constantly praised his performances, interpretations of those Genesis songs, including he did The Musical Box and a couple others, I think. Of course, Kashmir, which actually did get a little bit of radio play, his interpretation of Kashmir, in a lot of ways made it his own. And his covers, he had some other covers. I'm trying, off the top of my head, I should know. But the Back in New York City got recorded for the. He did Siberian Khatru with a guy named, it wasn't Stanley Snail, but he named him on that collaboration. So those are really my top 10 to 12 artists. But you got your Led Zeppelins and Queens and Mew, Ocean Size. The stuff I've done videos about. I love classic rock, Jethro Tull, Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd probably does belong on this list, actually. But how many artists? That's my background with music, with listening to music. I love classic rock. I love jazz fusion. I love Pat Metheny. I love Return to Forever. I love Mahavishnu Orchestra. A lot of that stuff. And I love U2. I love Jellyfish, XTC. I've been into especially the last 5 years or 10 years or so. I haven't done videos about all these artists. I love a lot of metal, of course. Between the Buried and Me, Protest the Hero. I mean, I've shown videos of, like records. I love a lot of 90s stuff, like the Tea Party, and I Mother Earth, and a lot of the obscure prog stuff. But, people want like videos about artists that are popular like U2 or like Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or, I'm not going to necessarily want to do a video about all of those unless I'm going to do like some deeper tracks or something like that, or album analysis if I end up doing that. Because my niche, I guess, tends to be for these obscure artists. Small League Sing Ships, Fiacra, the Reina Kindo. Most people don't know who these artists are, and that's why they don't find the videos for them. But, I don't know if it makes sense to start doing just artists that people know and then, just leave all the obscure stuff for the blog or a podcast. I don't know. But if you... just give me your top 10 artists. If you want to leave a comment, that'd be great. If you subscribe, you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. You can follow me on Twitter, All Media Reviews, and I'm on Facebook as well. And thank you for watching.